Weird. I see. Ooh. There. Yeah, I forgot about that. Here, kitty. Get this thing back. Over 1 pound. Okay. Hey, Rusty,
Hello there.
how's it going?
Ah, tired. It was a busy day.
Uh, yeah, I've been busy too.
Yeah.
Students just had an exam, and I'm in the middle of grading it.
Oh boy.
And another
Every,
class has a term paper due later this week.
oh boy.
Oh boy, indeed.
You're getting near the end of the semester too, aren't you?
And we got just 3 more weeks of classes before final exams.
Then the fun starts.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Grading all the final exams. Oh. Yep. Working on lawnmowers all day.
Hmm. Broken or just broken or maintenance or what?
Um, both maintenance, problems,
Yeah.
broken. And I get to go do it again tomorrow.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Nobody else here, it's just us.
So far.
Uh, yeah. Well, that's not that early. Uh,
Jeff's usually here by now.
yeah. There we go.
Then again, his email's always been funky about accepting messages from the. Maybe I better send him a. Trouble is when I send these out to the entire membership, with the group that I'm using in the email system, only Jeff's AOL email gets it. Not his Gmail. And it's oftentimes some of these messages he can only receive them on his Gmail.
Yeah, that's all I have now is Gmail. I had MediaCom forever, and I got rid of MediaCom.
Hmm.
Got that MetroNet.
And I've seen Metronet trucks around my area a few times. I'm wondering if they're installing it here too.
Yeah.
If they do, I'm seriously going to look into it.
Oh, I like it. It is so much faster.
Fiber optics, yeah, it would be.
That's 100% fiber optic all the way, except for that far from my computer.
Hmm. Does that mean they'd have to install new cables in my condo?
It doesn't use cables. There is no cable.
No cable at all? What's
No
pure?
cable at all. Fiber optic comes right to there's the modem, fiber
Mhm.
to the modem, and then there's a Cat 5 cable from the modem to your computer.
That's what I mean. They'd have to install fiber optic lines up into my building, you mean?
Yep.
Oh. See, I live in a condo with 4 other units.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, it works. I'm pretty happy with it so far.
That's good. Do you get the local ABC affiliate? channel 8.
Oh, yeah, because we use an antenna.
Oh,
We didn't get the the TV part of it. We just got the internet.
hmm.
Stream. We've been streaming,
Uh-huh.
we picked
Yeah.
up the Discovery Plus. That's got How the Universe Works and Ancient Aliens. Those are my two favorite shows.
Ancient Aliens, huh?
Yeah, Ancient Aliens and How the Universe Works.
Yeah, I know the two shows. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
Ancient Aliens is kind of, well,
I've seen descriptions of
different.
the episodes. They're funky, is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah, they're a little different.
Yeah. Ah.
Some of what they say is possible.
Mhm.
Some of it might be a little far-fetched.
Well,
Well, there's Jeff.
yep. Yeah, well, Mediacom hasn't been showing Channel 8 for months now because of pricing
Oh yeah,
disputes.
they've got they're disputing the
Yeah.
yeah. We just went to an antenna for
I tried buying an HD antenna the other day to see if that would work. Unfortunately, all the windows in my place face north, and I can't get a signal using it.
yeah. Did you try a booster, one that's actually plugs in. It's got the booster on it.
That didn't work.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that ain't good.
No, it isn't.
Ugh.
Well. Yeah. What's taking Jeff so long? Jeff, are you there? Yeah, let me open the chat room here, maybe. Jeff, if you're having trouble with your video and your mic, I've got the chat room open. Can you communicate that way? Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know. There.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing tonight?
Now I'm getting worried that more people haven't shown up.
Well, it's still a little bit early. With the Zoom thing, it's a lot easier just to come in at the last minute.
Yes. I
I
noticed
talked
that
to
with my students.
Yeah, I talked to Craig earlier today, and I think he plans on being here.
That's good.
I haven't heard anything from Jason or Paul. Have you?
No, I haven't.
I'm ready for a nap, though. I like your aurora in the background.
Yeah, it's
Or is that fumes?
Not often you see a virtual background of
Fumes.
fumes.
Bad gas.
Hey, Rusty, how you doing?
Pretty good. You need a haircut. You need a shave.
I want to be like you.
You got a ways to go.
Yeah, I do, but I'm getting there. It's just since February.
I know. Well, that's not bad.
It's getting there. It's.
Yeah.
I thought maybe up here would get jealous, but it's not.
No, no.
Hey, did you ever?
Now I know how the only clean-shaven guy in ZZ Top felt.
You know why he doesn't have a beard?
Why not?
Name is
What?
the drummer in ZZ Top. He doesn't have a beard. You know why?
Why?
Frank Beard.
His name is Frank Beard.
Frank Beard. That's his
That's
name.
true.
Frank Beard.
Yep.
Hey, did you ever figure out what I owed you for doing the rest of that mount so far?
No, we're not really.
I'd like to work something out with you, even though I'm not ready to do anything yet. I'm having a hard time finding somebody to do any concrete work, so I don't know what to do. So I figured that, it's getting that time of year where you're going to want to have a little bit of space in your garage and all that, rather than storing stuff for people. So,
Well, it's only taking up a small spot.
yeah, that's true. It's up to you.
That doesn't matter.
I forgot. I think when I do get something set up here, I put in that plate, and then do I just take off that plate and bring it back to you to weld on?
No, we're going to have to sit because that's an equatorial mount. And unless you've got, 360 degrees of adjustment, that pier needs to be mounted to that plate in a specific direction.
Okay.
Once it's marked, or, I can bring my little 110 volt MIG over and we can just tack it enough to, so it stays together, and then we can take it apart, bring it back here, and then weld it up solid.
Okay.
On.
So what I was going to do was aim one of the points on the square base.
Yeah.
Aim one of the points perfectly north.
Okay.
And then however we weld it on, if I do that, I've got enough adjustment to move it, 5 degrees, 10 degrees each side of that.
Okay.
So I figured that ought to be close enough that if that's pointing directly north, and then if I move that someplace, then that's always north anyway.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, that would work too. Yeah. Just, once you get the concrete done.
Yeah. I got.
Mark that particular corner.
I got to get somebody to do that, and I can't find anybody.
Yeah.
The two issues I have is one, I think that it's hard to find somebody with a big auger, and two, it's really not a very big job for somebody to want to come over and do.
Yeah. That's a lot of hand digging.
Yeah, especially if, yeah. So I was really seriously thinking about it since it was my home, not even to worry about it, just put in a slab and bolt it down to the slab.
Well, yeah, you could do that.
I'd have to check polar alignment periodically, but maybe that's not all that bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't get much sky. You saw what my yard looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be a little difficult.
We could see what Sam's got to say about it all.
Hi, Sam.
You're
You're
muted.
muted.
He's not talking. Hi, Sam.
You're muted.
I tell you, I was trying to use my headsets that worked forever, and all of a sudden it's like, this is the second time that I've tried and they don't work anymore. So I'm just using the speaker and the microphone from the computer, which is not my favorite, but it's all the only thing that works. And you were talking about, you're muted.
Jeff, you're muted again. You're muted.
Sometimes my space bar mutes me and sometimes it doesn't. But I was going to say, Sam, you sound all right. I mean, the
Yeah.
audio is great.
I know it works okay, but it's okay. So you were asking about doing the slab and putting the cement thing for your telescope. Did I ever give you that phone number for that guy, for that Dan the carpenter?
I don't know that you did or not. I thought at first you met up with him and he was supposed to call me, but didn't.
Yeah, I gave him your number. I told him to call you. So he doesn't have an auger for the 24-inch, if that's what you were thinking. But he has one for, I think he has a 12, and I think he has an 8 or something like that. When he needs to do anything like on a 24, he actually goes to, I don't know if it goes to Ace or True Value or one of those places that rents tools, and he rents the auger for the 24-inch. And then he has a little skid steer, a Bobcat, I think. And then he attaches it to the Bobcat, and that's how he does. That's how he did all the ones for our.
I wonder how it would be if I only went 12 inches and then the top 1.5 feet or so just kind of went on an angle in, and came out to 24 for my pier pad.
Okay. I was trying to get.
I don't know. I think you could probably. I think 12 is probably more than enough. I think the biggest problem is digging far enough that you're below the water table, right?
Yeah.
Frost line.
The frost line.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it will start going up and down every time it freezes.
Yep. It'll heave up on you once it freezes.
So I guess I was just wondering whether 24 inches all that way is overkill.
It
Well,
might
actually,
be.
the frost line, what they claim to be below the frost line, where our area is going to be like 56 inches.
But I didn't know whether 24 inches around is overkill for my telescope. That's a big hunk of concrete.
It
Yeah.
is.
Hi, Ellen. Hi, Ron. Hi, Ken.
Hey.
Hi, Craig. Hi, Kate.
How's everybody doing?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Craig. Hi, Kate.
She says hi.
Okay.
Hi, Grandma. Hi, John Boy.
Anyway, I know that if I
Hello,
make
Billy Bob.
a smaller diameter pier, it's probably easier to get done. But I don't know whether, I'd have to talk to Rusty about revamping the idea of how to bolt that down to the slab.
We can figure out something.
Because I think that what you've got, I think that the bolts are 16 inches apart or 14, something like that. I think that
Yeah.
that steel plate is 16 by 16.
Yeah.
So I'd probably have to, maybe leave that the way it is and build another one that's only, 8 inches apart on each side of the pipe that comes up for a
Well,
small
if you do
pier
that,
pad.
you definitely have to go to a smaller diameter pipe. Because,
Well,
but
or
then,
can it just be an inch away all the way around?
yeah, it could. As long as you got room enough to, get a wrench on the bolts or the nuts there.
Yeah. And I could use that same metal plate.
Yeah.
And then when I move it to someplace else, then I'll, make it wider. But again, my sky I only have like 15 or 20 degrees of sky I can look at. So it's not like I'll be, I don't even know whether I have to move the dome much.
You're true.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess that's a convenience.
Well, it is that I can be at home and do a little bit of something. You know, I almost can't get out anymore, not for a while anyway. So at least I can set up gear and use it and do something.
You'll get really good at that little piece of sky.
Yeah, I'll know every bit of it.
We'll give it a couple more minutes, see what else.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and send a text to Paul and to Jim and
I'll be back.
Jason.
Who sneezed? No.
Yeah, I just sent him a text.
Okay. Now the weather is telling us it's not quite summer just yet.
No.
No. How's life? Yes. No.
We got one back from somebody.
Okay.
I don't think Jason's going to make it. He's got a family thing yet.
Again. Seem to have a lot of them lately.
Yeah, you can probably chat with him and get the details on that.
We should do that. Yeah, it's going to keep up. I mean, don't want him missing too many more meetings.
Yeah.
Anything from Paul yet?
Not yet. I told Jason best wishes and he said thanks.
Okay. Quick question. Which I post the link. I've sent it both by email and I post it on the QCAS Facebook page. Which one do people tend to access more?
The Facebook.
Email.
Email.
Email on Facebook. Email.
Yeah, it's email.
Email. Ah. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Oh, all right.
What's interesting is that you usually send the invitation and then you send a reminder. I think you sent 2 reminders this time, right?
I might have.
There was one like a couple of days ago and one that was, I think, earlier today.
I do. Yeah, I did send one earlier today. Yeah.
So the one earlier today worked. The one from a couple of days ago kept asking me for a password. So it's almost like every time you send a reminder, it resets the password and it asks for a different one.
But do you actually need a password to? But it didn't need a password with the one I sent out this morning.
No.
Hmm.
No, because I think it's built in into the link, and when you click on it, it lets you in.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Anyway,
Jason would be the one to ask about it. But since he's not here, we'll guess we better get started with the meeting. So we had our last board meeting on the 7th, and one thing that happened that I immediately remember was that we decided to move the board meetings to the first Monday of the month, at least for the time being. That seemed to fit with most of the board members' schedule a little better. And other than that, we discussed, we're talking about selling some of the club's older equipment, among other things, help raise money for the observatory relocation. And one particular item that came up was the 16-inch scope. So we kind of tossed around what kind of an asking price we wanted for it, and what did we ultimately decide on one, or did we table that for further research?
Yeah, the way I think that we left it is we offered it to Craig and Howard. We got it from Craig, and I think before Craig, Howard owned it. And Craig, I'm going to let you address that further, but it sounds like Howard may now be interested in it. So my thought was getting an offer and then presenting the offer to the board. And then if Craig or Howard didn't want it, then we'd offer it to members.
Well, the situation is I talked to Howard in depth when I realized that I already have a replacement 16 Ford, my truss, and I'm buying some other equipment and no place to put this one. Howard really shows interest in repossessing this scope, but he's got, according to him, there's a few irons in the fire right now that needs to be considered. He wants to refurbish his LX200, the 8-inch scope from Meade. He wants to go to Detroit, Michigan. He found somebody that would be able to fix it for him. Not knowing what the price would be, I'm not quite sure. He really wants it, but then again, allocation of money is not available right now, according to what I got from him. So, like I said, it's a good scope. It is for somebody who has a little lifting capability. You got to remove the mirror. I built a box for it. The box is over there for moving. The tube takes a good 6-foot bed to fit in.
So I've heard talk about what somebody referred to as a travel pier. Is that what you're talking about when you say a box, or is that something else completely?
No, the box, the mirror itself, the primary comes out of the back of the tube.
Okay, and then you have
And there is a wooden box that I built for it specifically for that mirror so that you can haul it around without damaging it.
okay. So the
Now,
only person,
the original pier is still there. It's in pieces. There's 3 legs and the main tube.
okay.
Yeah. So it's still, how would you say? You can still go places with it.
So the mount that it's on in the dome, does that go on the travel pier?
From what I understand, the saddle that the mount sits on, the motor drive sits on in the tube came from the pier. Now, the motor drive is attached to all the adjustments, and it has a mating sleeve at the bottom where 3 bolts holds it in place. All you have to do is take those 3 bolts out and the motor control can be lifted out of the tube. And I do know that the original tripod is still in the storage there in the dome building because I put it there. So what was the question? Did I answer it for you?
I think so, and I just wanted to add that Jim Rudenbeck reached out to me and he was kind of interested in maybe not buying it outright, but partnering with somebody just to keep it around. So I know Matt's very interested in it, but not at a price.
Well,
Just to keep it around.
okay.
So I know that the reason that we're talking about moving it is the plan that we put together was to build a new dome at Mankey so that we can relocate Dr. Mitchell's one of his 3 telescopes that are currently in the roll-off. I think it's a 12-inch Newtonian.
12.5-inch Newtonian.
12.5-inch Newtonian. And with that done, then he's open for the 20-inch to move into that roll-off building somehow.
I am.
And so
yes.
if all of that happens, then, we can say, hey, we're at Mankey and Sherman's completely off the books. But the first step is to move the 16 so that we can relocate the dome into a new dome at Mankey. And obviously we don't want to just leave the 16 out to the elements.
Oh, no.
Now, the last time, the only person I've ever seen use that telescope is John Baker. And we were out there one night. Somebody was running the 20, so he and I hopped on the 16. We could not get that telescope collimated. Couldn't do it. I don't know what it was, or if we're having bad luck. It's not the hardest thing in the world to do, but couldn't do it.
No, culmination for me was rather easy.
So
It
we were
really
worried
was.
that there was something going on with something behind the mirror, if something wasn't quite right, or if the focuser was struggling, but worst coma imaginable in our images. It was terrible.
Oh, wow. That I never did get. I've had good pictures out of that.
Yeah. So I brought it up a few times over the last year that if somebody could bring a laser collimator out there and see if they can just get it done, it would probably stay collimated, or at least pretty good. I just don't think it's ever been done. And I think the club used to own a laser collimator for the 20,
Yeah.
but nobody knows where it's at. So it either walked away or the snake got it.
Is that a 2-inch focuser on there, Craig?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got that 2-inch Hotech.
Yep, that'll do. All you do is you face the target to the back of the scope, bring the tube up so that you can see the 3 adjustment screws and the scope, and adjust until it lines up.
Yeah, just like any Newtonian.
So that being said, that's why I was like, we just can't ask any real money until I know that scope is doing better than it has the last couple times I've tried to use it. Like like you would align an object in the sky, and then you would see the stars move, and then it wouldn't catch for about 45 seconds, and then finally it would start guiding, or not guiding, but tracking. And
That
so
sounds like the clutch needs to be tightened a little.
that's what somebody said. So
That's not collimation, though.
no,
that's
it was
not
just the
combination.
fact that it wouldn't. Once you let it go, like you would put it where you wanted it to be, and then you would let go of everything, and then I would watch my computer screen, and you would see the sky moving for about 45 seconds, then it would stop. So you knew that if you found something on your screen, you had to put it at the top left-hand corner of the screen, and then by the time it started to track, it would move itself to the middle.
I think the clutch is 2 metal plates with a fiber plate in the middle. There might be a little dust or rust on those plates, which would create that problem. By using it, you're literally rehoning it to run properly.
Yeah.
Though it does sound like the clutch needs to be tightened just to tweak a little bit.
Yeah. So those couple instances, I think that sums up its use the last 3 years, and it's unfortunate.
Oh, I've used it. I used it about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just for viewing though, we had an open house and this 20 was being used and I was in the 16 and
Yeah.
never had a problem.
So I think what the board talked about, obviously we want to keep everything related to the 20. So all the adapters and, everything with that, the eyepieces, all that stuff that we use with the 20-inch. The Dobsonian, I think with we want to keep. and then the SCT, the Mead SCT. But as far as an inventory of whatever the club owns beyond that, we don't really have a good list. But I think that if there's any money to be gained for the relocation program, we'd be open to it. And the only thing I brought up that I've seen out there is there's a CCD camera. Like I think it's a monochrome CCD camera.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but I don't think anybody uses it. If somebody wanted to offer a few dollars for it, I think the club should be open to that.
Yeah, I don't even know if there's drivers available for that anymore. Or if the
Somebody
drivers
said
were.
that they thought like Windows 95 had drivers, and anything beyond that was kind of a crapshoot. So I think Ron wants it.
No, no.
2 bits.
Windows 95. What were the
Yeah,
drivers on a
Windows
floppy disk?
95.
Were the drivers on a floppy disk?
I don't know.
I think it's on a cassette.
But I don't even know. I think it was a name brand, so I can't imagine. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I don't have any use for the slow monochrome
guide
CCD
scope.
camera.
So it sounds like we got quite a few pieces of equipment we can sell.
Well, I don't know about quite a bit because we got rid of a whole bunch of the antiquated stuff that was just laying around. I took van loads out. We got rid of stuff. So I don't think that there's a ton of stuff there at all.
Nevertheless, we should make an inventory of all the equipment that we do want to sell. Complete list.
Yeah, if there's anything, I don't know. I've been out there. I bought a tripod for the orange SCT, and when I was talking to Matt earlier this week, he was adamant that there was one out there, and I'm like, dude, I went through that blockhouse. I didn't see it, so I bought one. So he thought that there was some other stuff, or maybe some stuff walked away. Who knows?
Maybe the Beatles ate it.
Yeah, I can't imagine that little scrawny tripod walking away.
I couldn't believe when I showed up because I Byron helped me find a tripod and a spreader on cloudy nights, specifically for that mount. And when it showed up, I couldn't believe what a little chintzy little thing it was. So it's and $100. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes some of us should go out there again and look over the equipment and make a list of what can be sold.
And I don't know. I mean, again, one other thing we talked about, has anybody been there to Sherman since the Duray show?
I haven't.
So I'd be up for going out there just to kind of see the state of the roll-off, because we're just assuming that 100-mile-an-hour wind hasn't messed with it at all. So just curious if anybody been out there.
It messed with my roll-off. It messed with my classroom.
So
Yeah.
it'll be nice and cold tomorrow, no snakes, so I could go tomorrow.
Well, that makes one of us.
And I'll go with Rusty because I know he's
the
always
coyotes will
packing.
be out. Just bring some dog food.
Well, as long as somebody does go out there soon to find out. Yes.
So I guess, so the other thing, we talked about obviously wanting plans for the building. And we've kind of done what we can to kind of come up with a good plan or whatever. But if anybody has ideas for a cost-conscious dome, obviously I think we wanted it to be square if possible, just to kind of give us a little more room in there.
The rectangular was the plan.
Well, rectangle's a square.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Or square's a rectangle, whatever.
It's
No.
a square.
A square is a
with two
rectangle,
longer
yes, but a
sides.
rectangle isn't necessarily a
We
square.
wanted it to have angles as opposed to a circle.
At any rate, I did
A
post that on-
quadrilateral. That's what we want.
at
There
any
we go.
rate, I did post that on Facebook to a number of the clubs I'm associated with. And Cedar Amateur Astronomers came up with the same idea. Basically, we had put it on the end, so they've got a little sketch there. But it's not hard to build the building. It's hard to figure out exactly how to do the roof. And then the second thing is the knowledge to do the cement work properly. You can't just pour a slab and screw a big fork mount down to that and expect it to work right.
So do we have an existing committee from before? Do we need a new committee?
Well, there were committees, but then they didn't really stay too active on stuff.
They kind of disappeared when the pandemic started.
Yeah, well, we had, I remember when my first meeting, it seemed like we had more committees than people, and it was.
Well, there's a lot of stuff we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So it's always, going to be that way until you get a lot of people. But with every group, it's the same handful of people that do everything. So.
Yeah.
Leave it all up to Al.
But again, I don't know where to go to get somebody knowledgeable enough to build that building, the concrete work and the roof. I mean, it's simple to slap up 4 walls, and it's cheap to slap up 4 walls. And it's easy to pour. I think it's going to end up being like an 8 by
12 by 16, we said.
No, I think that the 12 foot came from the size of the Menke dome. And I think I talked to Jim. I talked to, maybe it was Matt, that I think our dome at Sherman Park is only an 8 foot one.
Yes.
So whatever that dome is, that's the width of the building. So I'm thinking that it's probably going to be an 8 by 12 building, not a 12 by 16. I think we got 12 because I think your dome is like a 12 foot dome at Menke. And maybe that's where those dimensions came from.
So we keep talking about using the dome from the existing dome, but you can find complete, prefabbed domes in a variety of shapes and sizes.
But that's 3 times the price of a mount to go in there. And then what do you do with our current one? And you still got the problem of doing the concrete work.
Yeah, I just didn't know if as far as pricing went, if that was an option, or if there's something we really like about that dome that we want to keep using.
Yeah, it's paid for.
Well, I know that.
It's still usable.
Yeah, my little building, I drove to Michigan to get it, and I paid $1,800 for it, and it's like 30 years old.
So yeah, a lot of the companies out there, they don't have pricing right on their site. They just have a lot of variety, and then they say call sales. So I don't have any idea what those cost.
Yeah, those pods are like $3,500.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to crawl into anything, obviously we want to have something tall like we currently have.
Why don't we just move the 8 foot over? Is there a problem with that?
Yeah, it's not worth it.
How's that?
Well, you still have to do the concrete work, and it's harder to do a round one than there's rectangle. And if you got to do the concrete work anyway, you might just well put something up that has enough room to have a table and have a few people in there. And then square walls are easier to build, and we don't have a whole lot of money in that anyway. A big expense is moving the dome, and we got to do that whether we use the same walls or not.
Agreed.
And Dr. Mitchell, I mean, because really we're talking about building something that's going to be feasible for Dr. Mitchell and his students when they're using that 12-inch. So, I mean, I don't know what it's like when you have your students out there and how much space you kind of require for that.
I can tell you about the existing Menke dome. Yeah, you can't fit more than like half a dozen people in there at a time without.
Oh, I mean, like
crowded.
you're talking about the 14?
The 14, yeah.
Yeah, what I mean is like when you take your students to the roll-off, you've got tons of room.
Mm-hmm.
So we're contracting that scope into a dome from the roll-off. So, it needs to be the size that you require, I guess, is pretty much what it needs.
No, we've already decided on the dimensions and the buildings and the layout. So to me, that's not even open for discussion.
The issue is to find some people who can lay down the cement and who know how the roof of that building, apart from the dome, should be constructed.
Yeah.
That was 8 by 12, so part of that building is going to be sticking out away from the dome. So you got to figure the rest of that roof has got to be at least I don't know what the term is, but angled in some way. We can't just have a flat roof, not in this part of the country. So yeah, we need to seek out some local contractors who could give us at least some idea of who would know how to build it and how much they charge us.
So Paul, are you home between 4 and 4:30 tomorrow night?
I don't know. I believe so.
Okay, I'll stop up. I'm going to grab that book
Okay.
and I'll see if I can yank out that section and get it to somebody to bid for us.
Good. Okay. Any other questions about the board meeting? And then April 10th was our Gens Went Public Night. Online only, weather did not cooperate for observing again. So instead I gave a demonstration of a Dobsonian telescope, my own 6-inch Dob. And we did have a few people from outside the club who signed on to attend. And I'd like to say the presentation went well. And I thank Jeff for filling in the blanks of some of the things I didn't know about the things I didn't know as well as I should have.
Well, you don't want to say that. It's just that I'm a Dob guy. That was my first scope, and that's what I use the most for visual. But we did have a guest by the name of Joanne, and she has a what appears to be a Newtonian on an EQ mount that she's had for a lot of years. And I think Dana made arrangements because I blasted out an email to the club to see if anybody knew better how to use a manual EQ mount than I did. So I don't know whether he made, I saw some emails go back and forth between her and him, and they might be going out Sunday unless they went last Friday, but I think one of them canceled out on Friday. So I think that Sunday coming up is when they're going to meet out there. So that's kind of neat that we got a, somebody from the public that asked for our help for that. So
Yes.
yeah, her last name isn't on here.
Mm-hmm. And we're thinking of like doing this as like almost like a semi-regular series on our online public nights, demonstrating a different kind of a telescope each month. Jeff is talking about demonstrating what it was. Well, what kind did you want to demonstrate?
Well, it wasn't a matter of want. I still have to learn how to use it, but we were talking about demonstrating the typical telescopes that beginners end up with. And of course, most people recommend a Dobsonian, and that's the one that Dr. Mitchell demonstrated. Another very common one is a refractor, and it usually ends up being on an EQ mount, a manual EQ mount. So I have a nice little 70 millimeter Celestron refractor that I bought, a vintaged one, and I bought a manual EQ mount from Sam, and I've got him with Rusty's help and making some adjustments to the bolting system. I've got that set up. Now I need to learn how to use it, and that's what I'll be demonstrating at our next virtual public, that we can't, go outside and use a scope for the presentation.
Right.
So that would be one. And then Paul, another very common scope that beginners end up with is a small, like the Next Star FCTs, like the 8-inch and that. They're very popular. And Paul has the one from the club and has got the mount. So that would be another demonstration. So that's 3 different kind of scopes that we could demonstrate to the public to show them what they look like, give them pros and cons on why you would want to use that telescope, why you would not want to use it, how you set it up, how you aim the thing, and you know, just give some ideas like that to people. So that's kind of the goal, because you always get people online, you know, saying, you know, what kind of telescope should I buy? So this is where that kind of came from.
I can always do one about one with my CPC too.
An SAT on a fork. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else know how to work an EQ mount, really, a manual one? I downloaded a couple videos, but other than pointing the thing north, I'm still having a hard time finding any kind of releases, so that if you've got it polar aligned, how do you turn it this way without using these slow motion controls? I can't find a release that I can manually move it over and know how to use the dials to kind of aim the thing kind of in the right direction. So like I said, there's a million YouTube videos, but I don't know whether I don't have something set up right, but I can't find a release on it. So.
Well,
No,
are you sure there's a not a release on it? I mean, I've had a number of manual EQ mounts, and some have them, some don't. But I mean, at the end of the day, if it's a manual mount, you just have to be able to move it by hand.
Okay, yeah, maybe it doesn't. Ken, would a person not even really kind of worry about polar aligning it, then just pick up and physically move the whole tripod? Is that kind of the best bet?
Well, you're defeating the purpose of the mount if you don't tell them to point it at least roughly pointing towards Polaris. Because I can tell you right off the back, if you try to say pointed at due east or due west, for example, or even due south, you're going to have a terrible time following anything, because the mount, I mean, it's not like autodemut at that point. But I mean, some of my mounts have had locks on them so that you could kind of tighten it. Some haven't, in which case there you just depended on how well it was balanced, and typically they'd have some kind of a clutch. But I mean, there's really not that much to them. I mean, it's just purely a hand-driven thing, or in some cases they'll have a little slow motion control. But even if they didn't have it, even if they did have a slow motion control, I think they would have a lock or something, because otherwise you'd be cranking and cranking and cranking and cranking forever to reverse the mount when you're crossing the meridian.
Yeah, I do have slow motion controls, the 2 of them. And you can't turn the knobs enough to go very far. It only is like you have like 10 degrees on each side. So there's got to be a way to release. Maybe it's just all pressure. Maybe you just kind of push it.
Well, depending on how well it's put together, the design, it could just simply be a simple friction thing that you just have to grab the telescope tube and pull it. Now, the problem is, I saw with the PAC members, most of those folks, quite frankly, could never really figure out how to use a German equatorial. And it's not that difficult once you start using it a few times.
Yeah.
The biggest problem for most people is it's not like a fork mount where when you cross the meridian, you don't do anything with it. You just keep turning it. When you cross the meridian with an equatorial, you have to switch to telescope, because if the object's on the west side, the telescope's got to be on the east side of the meridian, and vice versa.
Right.
I mean, why they use equatorial mount for beginning scopes is beyond me, because most of those people, they won't be able to find anything other than the moon, and
No, I
hopefully
couldn't.
they're not stupid enough to actually try to point it at the sun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the next star, I was able to do the planetary alignment and get it to where, like I'd say, go to Jupiter from the index, because it wasn't really a polar line. You just, you level it, and so it goes to where it thinks Jupiter should be, nudge it to where it shows up. But if you tried to go to any other deep sky object, forget it. It was nothing there. No, never. And then it would stop tracking anyways. But
Can
Well,
I
when you say
can I
next
share
star,
something? Can I share something? Maybe I don't know. Let me see if I can share.
Hang on.
Yeah, it's disabled.
but you're right, Ken. They're
Try
very
it,
difficult.
try it now.
Okay. Can you see my desktop?
No.
Not yet.
Oh, wait a second.
It's coming.
It's starting now.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what you have, Jeff. Exactly what you have, because this is exactly from the Orion website.
Okay.
This is what you have. See here. See where it says right ascension lock thumb screw.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like a little screw that had like a butterfly head on it.
Okay.
If you loosen that, this whole thing should rotate around this axis.
Okay.
You can see.
And that's
there
what
is
you
the
loosen
right
up
ascension.
if you need to move your scope a long distance, right? And on the opposite side of this, right behind it, you cannot see it. It says not shown. There's another one of those knobs, and if you loosen it, then this whole portion on the top will rotate 360 degrees so that you can point your scope wherever you want.
Okay.
Once you get to wherever you want, then you tighten them, both of them, and then you use this slow motion and this slow motion to move them. This one doesn't give you much. This one, the declination slow motion give you maybe, I think, like 30 degrees at the most, 50 degrees on either direction, because you really don't have to. If you're going to track something, you only need the right ascension, right? This one lets you track 360 degrees around the right ascension axis. But you need to look at it and you need to see if this knob is in there and the knob on the other side is in there, and that's what you have to loosen if you want to move the mount.
Okay.
And
So
this,
I went over and found those in your right. But you see the dial where the arrow is for the RA lock thumb screw?
I know.
That dial moves when you turn.
I know
when you
it is
pivot
supposed to. It is supposed to move. You're supposed to be able to move it with your hand and rotate it around. And then once you find an object and you know what the right ascension and the declination is, then you have to move that and match it to whatever you know, to whatever is known. It's not the greatest because it doesn't have, it's pretty rough. You probably have increments of 1 degree, which is probably not very good for finding anything, but it should put you in the vicinity. This one up here for the declination, I don't know how much you can move that one. I think that one is, I don't know if it rotates either.
well,
Anyway.
the declination dial should not move. I mean, if it's a quality mount, it'll probably have a means to adjust, find it's not properly aligned, so to speak. But like you said, the right ascension, that one normally is movable. But for the beginner, I mean, they can forget about right ascension. I mean, if you go out to tell someone M42 at 5 hours, 35 minutes and declination at -530, I mean, I don't think they're really going to ever figure out how to use those dials to help them find it.
No, well, they have to find an object for which the declination and the right ascension is known. Once they find that one, then they need to adjust the dials to those numbers so that when they need to find another object, then they can use the dials. That's my understanding on how this
Well,
works.
and that is true. That's what it's supposed to do. But the problem is, you know, like this mount that we're seeing on the screen right now, I mean, that's just
Yeah,
a cheap-
it is really hard to use because it is pretty. It's pretty. The markings are pretty gross. They're not very fine. You know, it's not like you have a vernier calibration that lets you go tenth of a degree. So it's just mostly for finding big objects in the sky. If you try to find something that is not visible to the naked eye, or at least through a pair of binoculars,
The only thing
for that you
really
need to use something a little bit better.
the only thing it's really going to do is only get you in the general vicinity. I
Right.
mean, I have a Lodgeman DG11 mount, and it had setting circled on it. And even with the verniers on it, I never found it was accurate enough that I could actually, for the most part, get things in the field of view. Now, part of the problem was when I last really used it extensively, I didn't have anything like pole master. It didn't exist at the time I used it. And so, like I say, for the general public, I mean, the best they're going to be able to do is hopefully you can tell them you point it as due north as possible, get that polar axis elevated up to our latitude of about 41 degrees or whatever. And, you know, I just don't see that there's much point trying to help them with learning the diodes until they can actually just learn how to be comfortable with moving the scope.
So
Yeah,
maybe,
the hardest part is just moving it because everybody tries to move it like if it was an altitude azimuth, and that's not the way that it works. So for a lot of people, they're forcing it and it just doesn't go, and it becomes rather frustrating for them.
so
I think
maybe
more
it's,
than anything, they need to figure out how, if you loosen those two knobs, you can rotate both axes until your telescope is pointing where you want it to point. And then from there, you kind of try to find an object, and then you can at least use the slow motion to track that object, assuming that you had it pointed north at the right latitude. You should be able to follow. You know, the moon would be a really good object to learn how to track it if you really, or something like a planet like Jupiter, or which is at this time of the year is perfect once we get a little bit into the summer, right? But I think you can at least show them how to move it so that it makes sense to them.
okay. So, and mainly gear them toward doing solar system stuff with it, and maybe a few of the brighter objects that you can kind of find by star hopping, so to speak.
Yeah.
Maybe they can see, Orion Nebula.
But they definitely need to learn how to move the scope, because the scope doesn't move the way that they probably think it's going to move, right?
Yeah.
You need to tell them that you need to rotate the right ascension and the declination until you find the object, and then tighten it, and then use your knobs to track it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You go ahead and just loosen both and pivot everything around till you get on the object, and then tighten them both down.
That gets a little bit, I mean, you can try, but I think the easiest thing is just to loosen the right ascension and rotate it until your scope is more or less level with what you want to see, and then loosen the declination and then point it up or down, right?
Yeah, like Ken said, I don't know why they have these kind of mounts for beginners.
Well,
Which brings me to,
Because it looks like everybody that has a telescope has, so it's attractive to somebody who doesn't have one and he doesn't know how to use it. Say, hey, I'm going to buy a telescope that looks like what a telescope should have. That's what I'm going to buy.
you know, the main thing that I've seen, people, beginners, you know, that
have a scope like this, number one, the elevation of the equatorial axis is usually not set correctly.
Right.
They'll have it horizontal, for example.
They
instead
have
of
it horizontal because they want to use it.
Right. And most people don't understand the theory of operation of this kind of a mount. And the basic concept you need to do is get the elevation of that equatorial axis set at 41 degrees or 41.5 degrees or close to it. And then you need to orient it so that it's pointed north, ideally towards the North Star. And you can do that with the telescope if you set your declination at 0 degrees or 90 degrees. I don't know which it is now, but if it's pointed north, you can get the North Star in there, and then your polar aligned or close enough. And then the scope will operate as an equatorial mount is supposed to operate. And yeah, you're good. If you're good, you can use the setting circles and you can find objects and all that. But most people are not going to be able to do that, or be able to find objects that they can't visually see. It helps if you know what you're looking for, roughly where it's at. You can get close with the setting circles. I've worked with the scope that we used to have there with a Losmandy mount in the Paul Castle Observatory, and it actually works pretty well. I mean, if you're meticulous about it, you can use the setting circles, and if you're lucky, you can get the object within the finder scope. And if you know what you're looking for, like globular clusters, things like that, you can usually see them. And that gets you close enough, you can get it centered in. But, the average person, a beginner, is never going to be able to use a mount like this without some instruction.
Right.
And, it's problematic. I don't know why. I agree with Ken. I don't know why they ever, offer these as beginner scopes, because they're very, very, very tough.
Well, and then to add to that, Alan, not only are they tough, but when they're inexpensive and cheaply built, it's not good for anything. I mean, an actual amateur astronomer wouldn't want something like this, because even if they knew how to use an EQ mount manually and setting circles, this isn't good enough and accurate enough to do it. So, but let me ask this of you guys then. Instead of, when we polar align for astrophotography, we go through all kinds of stuff with the polar alignment scope. On this one, if you get Polaris centered in the main telescope, is that close enough, isn't it, for visual, especially for this mount?
Well, for this mount, if you do that, it should be adequate as far as tracking goes. Basically, all you can really hope for is that you can just keep turning the right ascension knob and track it for a while. And after a minute or a couple minutes or so, you might have to tweak the declination knob again and keep doing that. I mean, for example, my Lunt Solar Telescope, that's a 20-inch focal length scope. I use it on my astrophysics mount. It's not permanently mounted. I just kind of know where north is based on the chimney of my house. As long as I just point it in that general direction, it does just fine for me imaging the sun, and I've never had any problems with processing the images. Of course, the problem is that camera, the way it was designed, it shooting about each exposure is less than a millisecond, so maybe Stack will handle that nicely. But the point is, I can watch it visually slowly move up and down in it. So getting it on Polaris will be plenty adequate for tracking in one direction, which is, I think, maybe the intended selling point of this mount, that you don't have to move it both ways. But as someone earlier said, they're just so poorly made that to a large extent, it probably is easier to just deal with the Dobsonian. And I think it's just intuitive to be able to kind of move it in that diagonal type of motion anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I hate to break this up. We got quite a lot more meeting to go through. So,
Okay, well, anyway, you guys gave me a lot of tips on this, and I think part of the demonstration will be how difficult it is to use it, and maybe some of the reasons why this type of mount isn't the best way to go.
good idea. Yeah.
But anyway, okay, yeah, thank you.
All right. All right. So couple more pastimes. April 12th was the monthly PAC meeting, and they had a presentation of an expert on Indigenous North American astronomy. Thank you, Alan, for hosting the meeting. It was an excellent presentation. And then I see in the schedule you were scheduled to have an observing night on the 17th. Did that happen?
Yes, it did. It did. We went out to Niabi Zoo. That's the first time we've been there. We weren't there at all last year. And this year, this was the first, April 17th, last Saturday. That was our first session, since COVID-19 open to the public.
Did a lot of people from the public come out?
No, I think, what did we have, Rusty? Maybe about 3 or 4 visitors from the public came out.
Yeah, we
Like
had
that.
about 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
We didn't advertise it like we normally do. We just put it on the website or something.
Yeah, we had it on the website, and we didn't go on Facebook and try to promote it at all. We were trying to keep it kind of modest this first time out, just to see what would happen.
Understandable. Yeah.
And we were primarily using video equipment
Mm.
so that people didn't have to look through the eyepiece of the telescopes. And I don't know, Rusty, I thought it turned out really well.
Yeah, I mean, everything worked well. Things went well. That even the
I can show you what it looks like. You got a second? Got some
Oh, we
pictures
can
here.
take a second. Yeah.
Let me see if I can figure out how to do it. I always struggle with this.
Looks like Rolando's joining.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, the Cat's Eye Nebula. Okay.
You see our group picture?
Yep.
Yes.
Let's see here. Why do I always have trouble with this here? Okay, here we go. That's our group picture.
Mm-hmm.
This was our setup for the mobile observatory. We put the scope outside the observatory rather than setting it up inside, just to make it more convenient, for a group setting.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the TV screen that we use was set up here by the doorway, and you can see I had a long HDMI cable hooked up to the scope, which we had set up on a tripod, and then Rusty had his scope over here. I don't know if I had another picture. Yeah, here's another picture. You see Rusty had his and had a flat screen TV over here, and we didn't have a picture of it, but Dino had a scope. Dino Milani had a scope over here to the left.
Yep.
And I think the whole family set up another scope. Yeah, there's the PACMO scope. And here's just a quick, I'll run you. I know most of you have seen all these objects. Here's M3 that these are all images taken through the PACMO scope. M46 and NGC 2438 planetary nebula embedded in M46. Sombrero Galaxy. The moon was unbelievable. Yeah, when you show people the moon, that makes their whole night.
And so.
And see, this is Camel's Eye Nebula, NGC 1501. There was a lot of light pollution in that part of the sky, so it was kind of hard to get it. And this is the Ghost of Jupiter. And that was my favorite of the whole evening. There's a zoomed in. a lot of detail there. I was amazed we were able to get much because it was pretty cloudy. But it was amazing what we were able to look at.
What was the one before that?
This is the same. So this is Ghost of Jupiter.
Yeah, but the object before that, what was, I'd never heard of that.
The
wait a minute.
camel's eye, I think he said.
Yeah.
What
Camel's Eye Nebula.
Camel's
NGC
Eye
1501.
Nebula?
1501 is what it is.
Isn't there a few other names for that?
There might be.
Hmm.
There might be. It's a little bit fainter, and this was like in the northwest of the sky, and there was a lot of light pollution up that way, so it didn't turn out the best. I tried to tease it out a little better with
So-
Photoshop, but I couldn't really get it real well.
It's like
but-
the Oyster Nebula is what they're kind of calling it.
Okay, oyster. I think I've heard it called that too. There's a lot of names for these things.
Yeah,
It's cool just to come up with.
but I'd
Oh,
never
okay.
heard. It looks like there's red, almost like the same, unless it's just something else. But is there a little bit of red on the?
Also called the Oyster Nebula.
Yeah. I'll have to look. I've probably got I've got some other pictures of this.
Yeah, I don't see blue in some of the other color or red in some of the other colors, but it looks like you kind of picked up a little hydrogen or something there. But
Yeah. The one that is really cool is this one. This one here. This is the Ghost of Jupiter, and this is like a 3-second time exposure. I mean, it's really a bright object, and it's very photogenic. I mean, it doesn't take much. I know, Rusty, you got a picture of this too.
Yeah.
You have to cut down your sensitivity to the point where you can see detail and structure within the nebula itself. Otherwise, it's just blown out. It's so bright. This is one of the few planetary nebulas I can actually see.
Very nice.
Anyway, that was Saturday night. I would deem it successful.
Very good. All right, upcoming events. Menke Observatory is having its first public night of the year on May 8th. Too soon to tell if we'll be able to go out. It'll be online in any case. And then PAC has their next meeting on May 10th. And then May 15th, Astronomy Day at Bettendorf High School. We're still planning on having that. So we're talking about setting up at noon and then being open to the public from 1 to 5, and basically like having a few solar scopes outside, and we haven't decided yet on whether or not we're going to have any displays inside. I think, yeah, PAC, are you going to be involved with that?
That's at that's your astronomy day.
At Bettendorf High, yeah.
If we do come, how would you? What kind of involvement would you like to have? I mean,
Many of the members of this in both clubs anyway, so
yeah. I mean, you don't want us to bring the PACMO over, right?
I wouldn't think for that.
No, not to this one.
There's no place for to even set that up at
Right.
Right.
So, I mean,
a couple years ago.
if some of our joint membership want to come over and bring their own scopes over, I think that would be fine.
Yeah,
That would be-
large aperture isn't all that beneficial out during solar stuff, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, if
And,
you've got the white light filter or an HA scope, that'd be great if you wanted to show up there. I've got 2 HA scopes, so I could loan one to somebody. If you've got a mount, you can put it on. And for solar stuff, you know, a manual one's just fine.
Yeah.
Unless
And
it's a
then
junky EQ one like I've got.
And I think we're told the planetarium will be open that day, so if anyone wants
Yeah.
to publish us. And then, of course, we invite people out to Dixon for observing, weather permitting, of course. Of course, given the pandemic, do we want to do that this year?
Well, my thought is if we hold the event at all, we can do Mankey. the thing would be is, you know, if Bettendorf High School says, no, the pandemic's bad yet, we can't have the activity. I mean, that, you know, that's going to probably be pretty universal for St. Ambrose and Pleasant Valley and Bettendorf and
I'd
everybody.
have to agree, yeah.
It's kind of on or off, I would say.
So in other words, we're still waiting to see what the pandemic's like next month.
Yeah, and chances are we'll have to make a decision a few days before, you know.
At least, yes.
That that same day, that night is our next NIABE night.
Yeah. Yeah. Or is it, yeah, that's right.
Yep, same. That'd be that night. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
night? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
And that still works.
I think we can, you know, I think we're going to go ahead with NIABE night unless Governor Pritzker locks us back down again, but I don't think that's going to happen. So if you can't go out to, you know, Menke or, you know, can't go over to the high school, you come out to NIABE. I think that would be fine too.
Yep. And then there's Space Weekend at the Putnam Museum, June 12th and 13th. They invited both of our clubs to do some stuff there. We were talking about bringing a few solar scopes to that. I think as Menke is having its next star party that night, the 12th. So we would only be able to be at Putnam in the daytime anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, if someone wants to bring a small mount, I've got that second solar scope. So.
And then let's see, August 7th, the meteor shower party at Pleasant Valley Junior High. That one is also pandemic pending.
But Sam, we did buy a telescope for the raffle for that if we hold the event. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I guess I should say we order it because it was supposed to ship on the 10th, but I checked and they moved that date to the end of April. And it seems like everybody's having trouble getting equipment. So I don't know. I don't have my hopes up, but I'm hoping that we have it before the meteor shower so that we can raffle it. It's a 4.5 inch Newtonian on a tabletop mount. Seems to be well liked by everybody. I checked reviews in a lot of places, and everybody recommends that as a good starting scope for anybody. Similar to other scopes that other companies offer. Not exactly the same design. There's some of them that are adopts. This one happens to be kind of like a Newtonian, but it does the same thing, and it seems to be good for somebody that's getting started in the. I mean, it's an alt as, so that's pretty nice for people to maneuver. So that seems to be okay. Hopefully, we'll get notification that it's shipping soon. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know what, the program isn't until August. So if they ship it before July, it should be a piece of cake because it only takes a week to get here. So, but yeah, it's a great little scope for anybody. I thought about getting one for here at home too. So those times I don't have a lot of time, you just pick it up and take it out and you're set up, ready to go. So I think it'll be great for anybody to win that thing. So
yeah,
I'll buy tickets.
I'll buy some too. I want another telescope.
Yeah, we all need another telescope. It's important.
I've got one coming on Wednesday,
What this time?
1:30 in Astrotech
Nice.
refractor.
Oh,
The 152s are really way back. I don't know when they'll come in.
You can borrow my 152 if you want.
Oh, okay.
Bring your own van, truck. Okay, we're
right.
done talking about the new scope.
Okay. And then the Eastern Iowa Star Party on September 4th through 6th, Labor Day weekend. Plan now is just keep it small, simple. No guest speakers planned as of now. Just people coming out, set up their scopes, socially distance if necessary.
I don't think we planned on real food or anything, but probably the normal munchies and beverages there.
Yeah.
No speakers, no raffle prizes. It is 3 nights, I believe. So it'll be 3
Yes.
nights of nice astronomy and sleeping all day long so you can stay up all night.
Mm-hmm. I think we haven't had second thoughts about trying to go out, send out for pizza.
Yeah. Yeah, the pizza was a little bit rough to deal with last year, so we're still talking about what to do if we want to have any kind of food like that. We also thought about getting fried chicken, something like that. Then we also thought about just having munchies and people could do what they wanted for food. We also talked about doing the grill that they've got over there, but that seems to be a lot of maybe problems to contend with that. So we'll just play it more by ear as we get closer. Since we don't have to worry about guest speakers and transportation and all that, we can wait a little while before we go. I don't know that it'll necessarily be small because I think we can socially distance out there and still have 30, 35 people out there. Of course, you wouldn't have 35 people in the classroom, but if we don't have major food and guest speakers, we're not going to be using it other than for a restroom facility anyway. So
Right.
I think that we'll be fine that way. And we'll just kind of bill it as, you know, a serious astronomy weekend. And for people that are new to their gear, it still can be serious because you can spend some dedicated time learning how to use your gear and talking to people that can help you get it set up and working properly if you need. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Anybody buying any new gear lately?
Rolando, you start.
I got the
Just let me-
Skywatcher's EQ6R Pro. It's back ordered. And I got a ZWO ASI 533 MC Pro along with the ASI Air to control it. And it's all back ordered though. So I'm hoping to have it everything by mid-July.
Anyone else?
Like I said earlier, I got I think I'm an Astrotech triplet 130. It should be coming Wednesday. I think I got an email last week. I think they sent out an email saying that they were in stock or they got them in stock. So I went ahead and ordered it right away.
No, that's not it.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, with the bad weather we have, you might as well buy stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
I actually order a pair of binoculars that are on back order as well. They're a pair of APM 25 by 100.
Ooh,
25 by
really
100 binoculars.
25
Yeah.
by 100, yeah.
I got an Orion 25 by 100.
They're heavy.
Huge.
They are. Well, the
Bigger.
APMs, I'm pretty sure they are.
Hmm.
But I don't know when they're going to get here. I think the APM website says that they will be available on the end of April, but I don't know, and I don't know what will happen then.
Hmm.
I'm probably gonna need a mount for that because they're too heavy to handle.
I need
Yeah,
a
you're not
mount
gonna
for
hold that.
mine. It's like 10 by 70.
Yep,
Yeah, stop the vibration.
yep.
Here's my favorite binoculars right here. 8 by 30 Zeiss Jennas.
Hmm.
And they were a little bit less money than yours. And they're sure a lot easier to hold.
I'm pretty sure I got 2 pairs like those. Very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right.
I bought a
Any-
few accessories. I bought I've been wanting to get the SCT, some first light. So I bought a focal reducer, which is kind of nice. I bought a new compression back for it because I had a visual back, a 2-inch, but I wouldn't be able to use a filter because I don't have a filter drawer. So I bought a compression ring back for it, and so I took it out with my off-axis guider, and I could not get focus in the guide camera. Just couldn't do it. I hate the off-axis guider. It was the biggest waste. So I bought a new mount for my finder scope so that I can move it from my refractor over to the SCT. So it's ready to go. I just need some clear skies to use the SCT for the first time. And I bought a batten-off mask so I can get good focus. But man, those off-axis guiders, man, what a disappointment. Idea is great, but man, focus is tough. Because the one that I have, you take like this little wrench to loosen up the prism, and then there isn't any marking, so you're just kind of guessing that if it's, and with the refractor, that I move out 14 millimeters and I find focus, great. Now I just need to take it out and move it about 14 millimeters. So with an SCT, you're just guessing, what's going on and whatever. So big disappointment, but worked with some friends, couldn't do it.
Did you try to use the moon? You can do a rough focus using the moon first.
Yeah, I could get it to the point where like I could turn it like 15 turns and then, okay, well, that's great. Well, what does 15 turns of an SCT equate to in millimeters? Well, whatever. So, people have schematics and stuff based on whatever, but then you got to do math with the focal reducer. So it was just forget. Now I can just use my guide scope and it's fine. It's just, the rule of thumb is you want to be at like 1/3, 1/4 of your focal length, and focal length of an SCT is, forever.
Some of that is the reason why it's better to put most of your money in the mount. I gave up guiding after the first time I did it, and I'll never go back.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? All right. Well, we had an idea for a presentation this month. Unfortunately, it was about Jim and Steve giving a presentation on some kind of something for their telescope. Unfortunately, neither of them is available to do it. So we really need to get some presentations scheduled for future meetings. Now, I've got a couple of ideas for presentations I could give at future meetings. Actually, one was a presentation I prepared for one of our public nights, our public night back in February, which got unfortunately canceled. It was on the 3 Mars probes that arrived, the 3 probes that arrived at Mars this past February, including Perseverance with the Ingenuity helicopter, which anybody catch the news about that one from this morning?
Yes,
Was it like up for 40 seconds?
39.
Well, as a matter of fact, I downloaded a short video of its flight from the internet. I could play that right now if you want.
It's not too long, is it?
Less than a minute.
Oh, God.
Give me a second here.
You know how many DJI's drones you can buy with what that little helicopter cost?
A lot.
Well, this is what people got for their money.
Baby steps, baby steps.
Kind of looks like Nebraska Star Party, doesn't it, Craig?
Well, there's going to be fire in the back hills.
Look at that. The blades are rotating. It's hovering.
Rotating.
Considering that Mars's atmosphere is only 1% as dense as Earth's, it's amazing that.
That is amazing. That's a lot of lift
Yeah.
for next to no air.
Yes.
Well, it'd be really cool if we saw one of those worms from Dune come up and get it while it was flying.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Wouldn't they go for the rovers first? I mean, they're a lot bigger.
Appetizer, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you get for $85 million.
Well, the transportation accounts for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
And then the other idea I had for a presentation was kind of an interactive one. So I made up this laboratory for my astronomy class, which is meant to ask a whole series of questions to introduce the concepts of relativity to them. And I don't know, maybe crazy, but maybe I could give that lab as a presentation at one of our meetings, invite the attendees to try their best to answer the question. So think of it as kind of like a relativity game show or something. If that sounds interesting to people, I could set it up as a possible presentation.
Mhm.
All right.
I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good. Now, if other people have ideas for presentations, and please put them forward. Because we got.
Does anybody have any ideas what a good presentation would be for somebody that wants to do visual astronomy? I'd like to have one or do one on something to do with visual astronomy. It's real easy to do something on astrophotography because you can talk about cameras and filter wheels and all that kind of stuff. But what do you talk about when you talk about visual astronomy?
For me, it would be the transfer from what you have in a book to the night sky and be able to find it.
How to star hop?
Yeah. Using the stars in relationship to the book that you're using or the map.
Yeah, I know I have a hard time reading a map. I'm okay using Stellarium where I can see the horizon and the cardinal directions right on my computer monitor and point at the direction I'm looking and figuring it out. But when I've got a map sitting on the table, I have a real hard time reading what the heck that is. Translate that to the sky.
You got to get familiar with certain constellations and where they're at in the night sky, and then you use those as markers to whatever you want to see. Left, right, up, down.
I can read a map, but I can never translate that into what I was seeing through the telescope. I mean, you're looking through the telescope and the directions are all turned around relative to what the map is, for one thing. And you can't be sure that through the scope, you're able to see exactly the same stars to the same level of brightness that the map is giving you. So yeah, there's a lot of a potential there for a good presentation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have a hard time trying to find the body of Hercules, but when I move over to Vega and find that, and then move to the right or west, I can eventually find it. So you have to have your markers, certain constellations that you can readily find in the night sky, and then go from there.
I
Yeah.
think that the biggest issue is that when you look at constellations in a book and you're actually looking at the asterisms, which is the image, the stick figures that we normally represent on a book, they all fit on a page. So when you're looking at the sky, you're expecting to see something about the same size, and then you realize that it's probably 10 times as big. So you're looking for a small portion of the sky, and then you realize that it's taking 2/3 of the sky just to cover this sky. Like, for example, Pegasus, that summer square that everybody where Andromeda is, and all the and that is huge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That is
Square
a
Pegasus,
huge
yes.
square. And so when you tell somebody look for the square so that you can find Pegasus, and then here are the legs, and here's Andromeda, and blah blah blah, it's like they're looking for this little tiny square, and they're just probably seeing just one of the corners, when in reality, they need to look further back and say, it's taking about probably a good 10 or 15 degrees on the sky.
Agreed.
So
like,
it's
yeah.
that preconception from the image on the page on the book to what you're really seeing on the sky, because the same thing happened with Hercules. Hercules is huge. Most of these constellations are huge until you've seen them and you recognize them for the first time, and then you realize that, yeah, it is much bigger. So now I know what I'm looking for.
One thing that could help there is you can see references that tell you how many degrees these things cross. And then I teach my students in astronomy class how to use their hand to like gauge approximate degree size. Like your finger at arm's length is 1 degree, your fist is 10 degrees, your outstretched hand is like 20 degrees, and so on.
Yeah. That's another thing. Degrees seem to be degrees. You don't expect them to be what they are. Because, like, for example, you look at the moon and you're thinking a full moon is like, well, that's going to be huge. That's only half a degree.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's like, wow. So when somebody says, oh, you got to move 3 degrees to the left or 3 degrees to the right, and you're thinking, so I gotta take 6 moons over.
Yeah.
And, so that would be a good discussion, how to look at distances in the real sky, how to relate images from the book to what the image looks on the sky. I don't know that you can do that in a room, or because or on a presentation, because you'll be going from a book to a PowerPoint. It's something that is much better if you could do it, with a group of people out looking at the real sky. That would be a good presentation, yeah.
Much easier outside. You got a laser pointer.
Right, and you know how many times we're on Menke and somebody says, "Oh, I need a star to align my scope," and say, "What would be a good star?" And the first thing that the mount tells you, look for Arcturus, or look for this, and half of the people had no idea where those stars are. So it's like they're trying to align the scope, but if you don't have an idea what to look for, you don't even know where to start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody starts from ground zero, works forward. Yeah, keep trying.
Mhm.
You get better as you go.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that that would be an excellent thing to do for a group of people that are not familiar with visual to spend the night, trying to recognize the constellations, which stars make part of the constellations, which stars are shared among constellations, because there are constellations that share stars, right?
A few of them,
And
yes.
and then what things you could find on those constellations, because once you find a constellation, what you want to find is the other things that you can see, like the clusters or the nebulas or the doubles or whatever. So
Some of these
dark
ideas
hour-
would be good. Some of these
But-
ideas would be good for our public nights as well.
yeah, well, that's
Doesn't
what I
preclude
mean.
doing them at
Public night-
our meetings. Doesn't preclude doing them at our meetings as well. It's sort of, you give some of these presentations at our meetings and give them some of our public nights.
Yeah.
Presumably we'd get different audiences. Yeah, so yeah, there's some pretty good ideas here. Yeah, why don't you see what you could put together for future meetings?
Yeah, the other thing that would be, for people to have an idea of what the concept, if you have to do it on a PowerPoint, if you have to show a constellation and you want people to have an idea of what the size is, use a common object that you can put next to it and say, if you're looking at a car and you put a car next to this constellation, this is how big the car is, this is how big the constellation is. You know what I mean?
Well, you'd have to know how far the car is from you.
Right,
It would
right.
depend on
But
how far the car is from you.
I'm thinking that you're standing right there in a parking lot and there's a car right in front of you, say, and you put it next to it. I mean, you'll work all those details if you want to do presentation, right?
Yeah. I'll leave that to you. Okay. So we got a few ideas here.
And then if we can go back just a little bit about the presentation Jim and Steve were going to do, if I can show a picture of what that is. How many of you guys know what I think it's called a Hargreaves strut?
Hargreaves strut. Yeah, that's what it was about.
Does anybody here know what that is?
I don't.
I know because I saw that question, but I have never heard of it before.
Okay, so basically what it is, it's for people that have got long telescopes. So if you've got like a f9, f12 refractor, this is a very beneficial tool to have to keep your scope from wobbling around and to reduce vibration. And I'm going to show this little picture here that this is Steve Singson's refractor. Let me know when you can see my picture.
I can see it now.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a 152 millimeter f12 refractor, and it's really, really long. And the problem is you're supporting that huge tube with this real narrow dovetail receiver. So it's very prone to some kind of vibrations and stuff, especially when you slew it around. So this is a Hargreaves strut right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Steve Singson built for his. And at last time I talked to him about it, it physically worked really well, but he was not able to take it outside to give it a shot to see if there was any, what the benefits and how well it worked. But that's what the talk was on how to build this thing, because there is a little bit of engineering you have to do to it, some adjustments and some swiveling and stuff. That's basically what that talk was going to be about. And I'll probably end up building one of those for my long refractor too, because I think that anything that helps you steady your scope on your mount is a benefit. And if it's steadier on your mount, it also is less wear and tear on your mount. So, swinging something around that long, that fast, you get that fulcrum effect, and that'll wobble around on your mount and could cause some damage too. So it'll be good to learn to see what he did and what problems he came across, and so that if anybody wants to build one. I don't know whether the 127 is long enough to need one, but I think Ken has got scopes long enough that could benefit, and I know Jim does, and I do.
Hey, Jeff.
And Ron will be getting one that's about 30 foot long here soon, so he'll probably need one. So,
Jeff.
Yeah.
Steve had, the last time we were out at the Paul Castle, Steve brought his setup out there and he used that. And he said it seemed to be working fairly well.
good, good. Because
Yeah.
that was probably about the first time he used it, so.
Yeah, he had it out to our observatory on the 3rd of April. And just one cautionary note, he said it worked pretty well, but you can't put it on until after you have done a polar alignment,
Right.
because
Yeah,
it obscures the polar scope.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So maybe what he's got to do is make a little circle of metal that allows it to go through. No,
Well-
but that would make sense.
That's really a big scope, I'll tell you. When you get that set up, it's I bet it's 10 feet in the air.
Yeah, it's long.
Yeah.
So,
You want to see what it looks like? I can show you.
Photo? Or-
yeah, if you got a better picture than the one I had.
He had to take the brace off. Well, that's not it. It's this one here, right there.
Yeah.
So you know,
Let's see.
it's huge. Steve's like 6 feet tall, and it's towering way over him. So. So he's really got this set up nice now. I'm really happy that this was the scope we used to have in our observatory, and I'm really glad that Steve got it, and he's got it all cleaned up and refurbished. And man, when you look at like double stars in that, it's fantastic, fantastic. You can split the closest double star you can imagine.
Yeah.
And you can see black between them, even 1 arc second apart. You can split them.
Nice. All right. Okay, now look, I want, so we got some ideas for presentations. I want to pin down what the presentation is going to be for our next meeting, no later than the Friday before that, so I have time to include the presentation title in with the link for next month's regular meeting. So please, so send your ideas. All right. What else we got here? Well, we're up to the treasurer's report now.
Yeah, who is the
Really?
user?
What's that?
Who is the user that's logged on to the meeting?
I don't know. It's muted too.
Are you there?
Hello?
Are you a guest? Are you a club
User.
member?
Hello, user.
Ole oxen free.
Oh, well, maybe they'll come back.
Participant list isn't giving me anything. All right, treasurer's report.
Well, so our general fund right now is at 221780.
1780.
Yeah, after the purchase of the raffle telescope, our event fund now is at 40228.
Mm-hmm.
Observatory relocation is at 689778
Right.
for a grand total of 951786.
Getting close to 10,000.
You're on mute, Jeff.
I hate that space bar. Doesn't always work. Does that include the sale of the SCT, the little one?
No,
Okay. So we're right at $7,000 for the observatory.
6,900, yes.
We got right now. Okay. All
Plus-
right.
Plus the 150, or is that, you were including the 150? Okay, yeah, we're at 7.
So add 150 to the 6897 you gave us.
Yeah, I have to put that on my spreadsheet. I didn't have that in there.
That would make us 7,047.78, assuming it's 150 even. All right. All right, old business, observatory relocation. We talked quite a bit about that earlier in the meeting. Is there any new business or other business that people want to bring up?
Do you have any idea when Ambrose is going to kind of open up so that we consider doing blended meetings on site and Zoom?
It doesn't look like this is going to happen for the rest of this semester, but the plan is to open up fully in the fall. The assumption is that enough people will be vaccinated by then that we won't have to socially distance anymore. Full in-person classes, that's what they're saying. And believe me, a lot of us can't wait for that. You cannot, astronomy labs fully online with just posting all the materials a student needs on a website. Does not work as well as meeting in person. Nope. So, actually remind me, I'll contact Ambrose in person. Will we be able to hold our meetings in person this fall? Yep. I'll check and make sure. All right. Other items? My class doesn't respond if I ask them if they have any questions or comments either.
Hey, Ron, when does your scope come in?
They had said the end of April. I have not received an update on that yet.
Maybe we ought to make you wait and have an unboxing at one of the club meetings.
Yeah, I've already watched the video several times and how to set it up and so forth. So yeah, I'm getting kind of anxious here.
Which one is it?
I bought the Celestron 130 tabletop Dob truss.
Oh, okay.
So needed something portable like Jeff had mentioned, something I can just grab and go, and I set up for a short period of time, set it up quick, and learn how to visually find what I'm looking at.
Anything else?
I've got a question. It's for Ken. Can you take yourself off mute there? Have you tried your calcium K module yet?
I'm sorry, were you talking to me?
Yeah, have you tried your calcium K? module at all? How's that work?
Well, it works well, except the scope I had intended to use it on, I can't use it on because there's some baffles inside the draw tube, and they're actually just a little more than 2 inches in diameter. So had to dig deep into my collection of telescopes to find a different refractor that I could use it on. But once I found that, it works well. It's actually more interesting than hydrogen alpha at the moment, since the sun has gone kind of quiet again. This module came from Lunt.
Yep,
And
I've looked at their website.
It can only be used on refractors, and it has a side limit of 4 inches.
So what
So
sort
that
of
would mean-
detail? What sort of detail do you see that the hydrogen alpha doesn't show?
Well, I guess I don't quite know how to describe it. It does show sunspots well, or at least what appears to be sunspots. I mean, last Friday, for example, it showed 2 nice sunspots on the sun, but they're not visible visually. My understanding, and maybe Dr. Mitchell might have a better knowledge of it if he's somewhat familiar with the sun, is that hydrogen alpha, calcium K, and visible light is showing different layers of the sun. And so I can see those sunspots in calcium K because they're at that particular layer of the sun, but they weren't visible in white light or in hydrogen alpha. It's just a different view. I mean, you can go online, type in hydrogen alpha, calcium K, and they'll give you
Well,
some
yeah, I know.
idea.
I've been to a couple of websites like what is it, like they call it Soho or whatever, that has all of the different views on the different filters. But I wonder, and what you experience when you look at one in person as opposed to looking at a picture. Is it
Well-
as good as you see on the pictures, or?
Well, first of all, the calcium K is really not a visual filter. Its wavelength is actually just short of 4,000 angstroms, and
Near
I did try
ultraviolet.
looking visually with it, and I could barely see a very, very faint purplish sun. It's really a imaging type of filter, and it's quite bright. It's actually, I ran into the problem that the only way I could cut down the light enough to image it was I had to build a 1.5 inch aperture stop for my scope. Keep in mind, my camera goes all the way down to 1/10 of a microsecond, but with 7 micron, or I guess that's what it is, 7 micron pixel, it was collecting so much light per picture element that I had to cut it down. I don't have like a 3 or 4 micron monochrome camera. The other thing is, and this is true for both hydrogen alpha and calcium K, is you really can't use a color telescope on them. I mean, a color sensor on it. Because they're just in one short wavelength of light, most of the pixels in a camera, they don't pick up any light, and it just never looks good. So I have a dedicated monochrome camera, and I guess if you send me an email sometime, I can email you some shots I took last Friday. I'm not at my laptop. I'm using whatever the Android version of an iPad is. So I could send that out sometime, or maybe send it to Dr. Mitchell if he wants to forward it to the membership or something, to give you some idea of what it's like.
I can do
But
that.
bottom line is,
You send it to me, I'll forward it. Yeah.
okay.
All right.
Oh,
Anything
thank you.
else? Anything else? So our next board meeting is May 3rd. If anyone thinks of any items that they want the board to discuss, please email them to us. And our next regular meeting is May 17th, which is just after Astronomy Day. So probably a good chunk of that meeting would be a review of Astronomy Day events, whatever ends up happening. All right. Is there anything else?
I don't have anything.
Entertain a motion to adjourn then?
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I,
All right
Okay.
then. Good
Thank
meeting.
you.
Thanks very
Thank
much. We'll catch you all later.
Thank you all for coming.
all
Have a
right,
good night.
Bye.
yep, stay safe.
Yep.
Cool. Did we get a commitment from Sam or Craig to do that's the star hopping, the map thing? Because that would be a very good one, you know, even
It
if they
would be,
double
yes.
teamed it, you know.
Yes. They didn't exactly commit during this meeting, but hopefully they'll. Craig, still there?
Yeah,
Yeah, Jeff's just asking if we got any commitments about yours or Sam's presentation ideas.
I was thinking in June, because May could be the Astronomy Day stuff. And maybe
what are
in
we talking
June,
about
Yeah.
here?
I was wondering if you and Sam could talk about doing some kind of a star hopping presentation. You could double team it, and maybe for the June meeting, because like Dr. Mitchell said, our May meeting is the day after Astronomy Day. So
Okay,
we could talk about that for May, and that gives you guys like 2 months to, you know.
with Sam.
Sam's pretty good at putting together PowerPoint stuff, and you
Mhm.
verbally are really good about discussing how it works. So maybe, you know, between the two of you, you know,
Yeah, I'll get a hold of Sam and see what he thinks.
that'd be
Would you
cool.
please? Yeah.
It does sound like a encouraging. It is one of the things that got me back into astronomy. That's one thing I'll push right away.
Hmm.
Because before, all I could remember is looking through a scope and see a bunch of gray objects. Like, really? But when it came to observing a book and the night sky and putting them together, the excitement really picked up.
It'd be great if you and Sam would do that.
All right.
Okay, and Craig,
Sure.
I'll watch for a list of gear from you too, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay, thanks,
All
guys.
right.
Good
Okay.
night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Craig.
Good night.